So I think as I put together this class, and this is only a beginning of a conversation on a Jewish family, I think I probably should say that this is a conversation about human family. And I chose to discuss a family probably more complicated than or I should say every family is complicated. But the beginning of the human family, second beginning of the human family. So we're going to do some text study. So I'm going to ask you to join me in a blessing, but we're not going to only stop with a Torah study. This will also include some art and then later on some other sources. But there is a text, our beautiful Torah, that is both honest, unabashful, and both tolerant and intolerant to human frailty. Nevertheless, a treasure, or lucky for us, treasure. So we are going to say a bracha, and it is one that blesses us being engaged in a sacred text. If you have it in your arm's reach, your Chumashim or your Torah, we will be using some of the sources. So if I may start, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidashanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed be one, thank you. Blessed be the one who has sustained us and commanded us to reach this moment of learning and engaging ourselves in learning our text, in the words of our text. So I don't think that there is a celebration in our tradition, and probably in many other traditions, that does not include some form of a kiddush, and or this lovely statement that we call out called l'chaim, to life, no matter what happens. So it is a very much life-affirming, very much life-giving. And whether it is made of actually fermented matters like and it is a wine, or whether it is we make our kiddush over juice, this is what we say. So I would like to get to the origin of a little bit of our both a complex, a beautiful, and terrible relationship with intoxication. And it's a complexity throughout our world. Let me just preface to say, in no way am I, in my words, do I suggest that we should drink more than we drink. We drink as much as we should drink. And especially throughout pandemic, one has to be very careful is that the use of liquor and alcohol among the North Americans have increased tremendously. So I do, and I remember one of my colleagues said, you know, there is more and more production of wine that is in cartons versus in glass bottles, because it looks much more like a grocery shopping container versus actual liquor producing container. So I would like to make sure to say that we will be talking about the subject matter that one treats with great care. And because it's filled with its kind of a tense of complexity and potential for both exquisite and not a state, I want to be careful and preface that I do so with great care. So would someone volunteer and read, if I would ask you, and we're a small group to get a sense of what is the first encounter of wine in a Torah? Would someone be able to answer? What is the very first time we actually read about? Yes, David?
Noah?
Very good. So absolutely. So from the very start. So we barely got to Genesis 8, and the world is created and the world is destroyed, and we're moving towards Noah. So let's take a look at these verses and see what does Noah can teach us about it. So we will share the screen. Those of you who have Tanakh or Torah with you, we will be looking at Genesis chapter 9, verses 18. Through 29. And would someone volunteer and read for us? And this is, so where are we? First of all, that Noah just, God God's decision to destroy the world due to the fact that the world is corrupt. And the Noah is left his ark. They came to a place, they've been in an ark for a very long time. And this is the first thing after sacrificing of gratitude and receiving God's blessing of procreation and continuation. This is what happens to Noah. So let's read verse 18. Would someone volunteer and just read through the lines 18 through 29?
I can do it.
Please, thank you.
The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham being the father of Canaan.
Okay.
These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the whole world branched out.
Okay.
Noah, the tiller of the soil, was the first to plant a vineyard.
Mhm.
He drank of the wine and became drunk, and he uncovered himself within his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a cloth, placed it against both their backs, and walking backwards, they covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned the other way, so they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah woke up from his wine and learned what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves shall he be to his brothers." And he said, "Blessed be Adonai, the God of Shem, let Canaan be a slave to them. May God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be a slave to them." Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah came to 950 years. Then he died.
Thank you. Can I see your beautiful faces back? And then we're going to share the next day. So what strikes you? Anyone jumped into like, what is it you've learned you didn't see before?
If you drink, it contributes to longevity.
That much longevity. You're right. What else? That's very funny. Thank you. But it's nice and flippant. What else? What else did you learn that is surprising? What do you see in this text?
I've always wondered why the incredible taboo about seeing your parent unclothed.
Right.
Why? I can understand the sort of loss of dignity, but only if you have a certain paradigm that makes it so. And I've never quite understood why.
Excellent, excellent comment. Absolutely. I'll get to it in a second. Yes.
I never really understood why the other two sons backed out of the room. How did they know something that the oldest of them did not know?
Right. Something that Ham did not know. Right. Why? Or he knew, but did not bother. Okay. Very good. All right. Excellent. Yes. Anyone else? Right. Yes. Leora, and then.
I was just going to say, I don't understand why the curse was placed on Canaan rather than his father.
Very good, because Canaan, and the text is very, very careful to say this was a grandson. Very good, right? Absolutely. Okay. Anything else? Yes, Desiree? Yes.
Just to sort of build on what Esther said, my sister saw our father naked when he was in the last throes of his dementia, and it's been a nightmare for her ever since. So there is something about it.
Interesting. Interesting. So let me just back up a little bit. And the fact that, first of all, we have a man who's been captive in an ark for a very, very long time. There will be with his family. One of the things that comes to mind is, and we will answer your questions via text, because this question has been asked over and over again, your questions, by centuries of dialogue. So I think that my first sense of of what is such a terrible thing, you know, when, for example, in Japanese culture, sometimes family take an took a bath together, and it was done very respectfully. Body is a body. And what happens in other cultures, and I'm not sure, Indonesian cultures, where women do not wear anything on the top, and actually wear only, you know, the bottom covering. So it's very much based on also cultural sensibility. But there is also possibility that the writer purposefully left the text ambiguous for us trying to understand what actually happened that was so terrible that Noah, upon awakening, has to curse his son. So I will get to it in a little bit, but I would like to explore with you a couple of things. First of all, there are many things that Noah could have planted upon exiting the ark. But he chooses, or text tells us that he only plants a vineyard. If he plants a wheat field or a barley, which is a poor man's food, you understand why he would need it. There can be a terrible drought, there can be some other terrible things, but that's not what Noah does. Noah plants a vineyard. And by the way, to plant a vineyard, I've never done it, but my sense from visiting vineyards and very nice wine cellars, it takes some time to make wine. Between tremendous effort of tending to the grapes and making them grow and living with till they're tall enough and beautiful enough, and then it's been a while since you saw people and children rolling up their skirts and their pants and stamping on the grapes. I love that scene whenever the entire family crushing the grapes. But the fact is that process, and then it goes into the cellar, and then it's certainly certain temperature. And wine is that symbol of life and complexity. And all the winemakers will tell you the experience of humanity in your life is within that glass. The glass and the wine represent so much more of the individual's experience than just intoxicating drink. So let's just take a look at some commentary, and some of your questions that you brought forward will be answered. And then I will also try to tackle a very uncomfortable scene between Noah and his sons. So, and Talmud's suggestion of what it could possibly also have been. So can I ask to share the next quiz? Would someone volunteer? And then we're going to move immediately to the next page. And
yes,
this is
I would like to read.
Thank you. And Midrash Tanhuma, to stay alert and so forth, that comes to us from about 8th to 9th century of Common Era. Let's go.
Yeah. Noah degraded himself when he began to till the soil. Rabbi Yudah, the son of Rabbi Shalom, said, at first Noah was called a righteous and perfect man, but now he is described as a man of the earth. And he planted a vineyard. That is, after he planted the vineyard, he was called a husbandman.
Okay, so what the text, so we're going to go on to the next text. What the text hints at is that he's not called Ish HaElohim. He is called Ish HaAdamah. He's called the man of the soil. He's a farmer. However, so he's not like Moses. He's not like Abraham. He has a separate place of hardworking individual, but he's not in the same place as these great thinkers and movers as we would that rabbis would have liked him to put this in a category. So let's see what his life was like in the ark. Would someone volunteer and read the Midrash number 131? By the way, we will forward you. Okay, this is going to be hard. I'll read it because can anyone read it and can see it, or I can do it? Sorry, it's a photocopy from Legends of the Jews. Oh, that's nice. Thank you so much. This is from Legend of the Jews by Bialik, and I think it is also from Midrash Tanhuma. They love that. They love story of Noah. Would someone volunteer?
I'll read that.
Thank you.
Our masters said, during the 12 months Noah spent in the ark, he did not savor the taste of sleep. Neither he nor his sons, neither by day nor by night, occupied as he was with feeding the creatures that were with him. One creature fed in the first hour of the day, another in the second hour, still another in the third hour, and yet another in the fourth hour. One creature fed at the end of the first third of the night, another in the middle of the night, and still another at the time of the cock's crowing. What did Noah feed them? Each and every species got what it was accustomed to eat: straw for camels, vine tendrils for elephants, barley for donkeys, cistus shrubs for gazelles, glass for ostriches. Once, as he was late in feeding the lion, the beast struck him and he went out limping. That this happened is implied in the words, and only, Noah remained, Genesis 7:23. In these words, it is also implied that he was coughing and spitting up blood because of overwork in the tending of animals and beasts.
Okay, let's just stop for a second. I want to see you thoughts on this. What do you think Midrash is trying to tell us? What is Midrash trying to explain to us? What do rabbis want us to understand here?
It was no vacation.
It was no, you might go into the ark and everyone else is in trouble. But the fact is that try to take care of this job he is given, right? So we're dealing with metaphor, and we're obviously dealing with God's creation and its complexity. One thing was another midrash that I have not copied for you, but it's the fact that only pairs had to go into the ark. Why pairs? Well, so they can mate and make more. Okay, that's understood. So the falsehood tried to enter the ark. Rabbis are whimsical. Falsehood, yes. So they will pull out a pasuk. And why? What makes so falsehood going to be by itself? He says, "Well, go find yourself a mate." So falsehood leaves and walks around the world looking for a mate. What does it find? A worry. If you're anxious, if you weren't true, you're going to be very anxious. So that's the pair. They walked into the ark. Remember, the world is destroyed. There will be nothing left, but there will not be, rabbis see, there will not be an opportunity without at times fudging the truth and then have sleepless nights over it. And they come together. All right. So there was one more hand. Just a second. I didn't want to miss. I think it was who? Yes, Linda, please.
Oh, well, I was just thinking just how diligent he was at providing everyone with what they needed. Don't ask me how they stored all that. Got it. But which seems to be at odds with his treatment of his sons and his being so critical and judgmental of his son and grandson.
Right. So here's the right.
I wonder he lived so long about dementia.
Well, it's I would say that what makes family and earth, both human family and Jewish family, fascinating is that, and people as well, is that we're not consistent. We have terrible, the most we can do is try to mainstream ourselves in cohesiveness, right? Like I said to somebody, I said on my tombstone, I hope someone can say, we knew her, right? So she was she was consistent. What she was at home, she was at work, or she was with friends. Like there isn't, but usual stories are the stories of the fact that we can also be very flippant and surprised. But there's something else they're trying to say to us. Right? The man who's going to exit the ark is the man who is exhausted. He's exhausted. What we're asking of him is a lot. He preserves this creation of the world, and yet he's going to come out absolutely worn out. Let's take a look and see what Zohar, which is a mystical work and whimsically written to, so this is A. Would someone volunteer and read A and B? So a couple of things we are going to try to answer. And that is, where did he get the vine? Where did he get it? We're going to try to understand, right? And also the origin of a grape. So let's see what our tradition wondered about that. Someone volunteer?
I can read it.
Please.
So just A?
Yes, A and B.
Okay. When he left the ark and saw the world desolate, he began to weep. Master of the world, he said, you are called all merciful. You should have shown compassion towards your handiwork. Foolish shepherd, replied the Holy One, blessed is he. Now you say this? Why did you not say it when I told you? I'm about to bring the floodwaters. I told you so that you would pray for mercy for the world. But as soon as you heard that you would be spared, you were complacent. And now you open your mouth. When he heard this, Noah offered sacrifices.
Okay.
Noah was not careful to serve the Holy One. Blessed is he. Instead, he planted a vineyard. Wow. He planted a vineyard. Whence did he get it? He had taken vines and young shoots into the ark with him.
Okay, would someone volunteer and continue? We have few more to cover from several sources. So would someone volunteer and read C, D, and E?
I can do that.
Please,
Go
thank you.
ahead.
He found a vine that the river had brought from the Garden of Eden, and he planted it. It flourished in a day. Its grapes ripened, and he pressed them. What did the Satan do? He slaughtered a sheep, a lion, a pig, and a monkey beneath the vine, and the vineyard was watered by their blood. This was meant as a sign that before drinking wine, man is tame as a sheep. Once drunk, he becomes like a monkey. Noah, said the Holy One, blessed is he, should you not have learned from Adam, whose downfall was caused by wine? For the tree of which Adam ate was a vine.
Okay, so can I see your beautiful faces back? All right, what did you learn new from? Who was surprised with what they read? Was anyone like, right? Okay, so what did you get from this that you haven't known before about? Remember, rabbinic imagination is whimsical to the point that they also observe life. Where do we get our stories? We get our stories from looking at life and then weaving our ancient text to what we see among us. Where they're going with this and what is it they're telling us that you did not know before, or what do you think they're saying to us? Please, Renata, please.
Well, I learned two things. First of all, I always thought that Adam ate from a tree, and I thought it was an apple. I didn't know it was a vine. But anyway, but the other thing that puzzles me, why all of a sudden is wine such a terrible thing? Don't we do a blessing over the wine every Shabbat and every
Very
holiday?
good. We're going there. We are going there. Thank you.
Very contradictory to me.
Okay, very good. Okay, so first of all, in terms of what fruit did Adam and Eve ate, there is no definition. Apple came to us as one of the commentary. Some say it was etrog, others, say it was something also citrus-like. But the fact is that here I found the text, which actually surprised me very much, that it was actually grapes. Now I'm beginning to understand why Adam's and Eve's consciousness expanded. Over sudden, they got, on one hand, they got undressed. They realized they were undressed. They weren't dressed. They realized they were undressed. And they're in another conversation altogether. So I'm looking at this with my partner in learning, someone from a Talmud, this anonymous, who says that, well, look, there is a similarity. One part of the Torah speaks to another. There is a communication, an echo of text. One is there is a beginning of one world and ending of the other. The world from which Adam and Eve comes from is the world of this paradise, which we as humanity cannot endure. We have to be exiled. We have to get out. We have to do something terrible to be thrown out. And they certainly do that on account of what? Of something that will change you in a way and change your relationship to each other and to the Holy One. The other thing I love the idea is the fact that somehow through the river that runs from Eden, remember the rivers that run from this great garden, is that there were many things that could have been carried out, but it's a sampling of the vine that will be carried out. And out of many things that Noah running for his life has to take with him, it just happened to be the shoots of something that can produce wine, okay? So, I thought that they were interested. The other thing is that what is the first Midrash tells us about Master of the world? He said, you're called all merciful. You'd have shown compassion towards your handiwork. What is Noah saying afterwards? What is he saying to God?
Using a kiddush almost.
Okay, what else is he saying?
Oh,
I unmuted.
Oh, you unmuted it.
But the thing, I found that very disturbing for a couple. I mean, what I think what Noah's saying is, did it really have to be this bad? Like, you've left me with nothing, with desolation. And then God's rebuke. I mean, because it didn't work so well when Abraham tried to plead for righteous people. God still supported. He didn't wipe everything out, but he wiped out Sodom and Gomorrah. And underneath it all, this notion that somehow that he became a man of the earth degraded him in God's eyes and human eyes. What would have been in Talmudic times that would have made that
Absolutely. Excellent. Excellent.
because again, when you look at Esau and Yaakov was the farmer, no, and his brother was the hunter. That was kosher. I find this very surprising, actually. I find this commentary very surprising. I still have a child's view of Noah's Ark story. I don't think I've ever studied it. So I find it very surprising.
So I remember David sitting on the floor in our family room. It was carpeted at this time before Blake destroyed it, which came much later. If you hear Blake, it's our big white dog. And I remember him arranging the little animals, all the way around as they're marching into the Ark. Well, there's a lot more. It didn't go on further. So let's take a look. I'm after something as well. And Esther,
There's a hand up.
Sorry. Yes, please.
Not me.
This is Amy, by the way.
Amy, my love, welcome. Welcome to Israel.
I just had a very small question because I feel like, Noah communicates with God directly, right? And in here, it's as if they're taking Noah away from the connection with God. Like Noah was so holy in God's eyes, like he was the one that was left, right? And he was able to communicate with God directly. And I don't know why they paint Noah in such a bad light.
Yeah.
So right, so Noah does not get, so a couple of things, right? I think you will see another midrash where he is put in a context of other great sages. And by the way, if you are in communication with God, lucky for you, the responsibility is greater. It's surahs to be in direct communication with God. You want surahs? Start communicating in a very profound manner. When God begins to talk to you, right, the prophets who have direct communication with God have also very miserable lives. You don't want to. However, of course you want to. Of course you want to have a pipe to the Holy One, to trying to figure out what this whole world means. What does it mean? How does it work in all of this? We might get like a tiny bit of an opening. So there is a number of echoes of other conversations that are recorded only partially. Linda, yes.
Well, I'm drawing a parallel between the way God responded to Noah and Noah responded to Ham.
Very good.
Really critical and, very
parental,
not
right?
the kind of parent you'd want to be.
So let's take a look at further midrash. I have a couple for you. There is a repetition. One is in particularly longer one, but it's worth it. And let's see what our teachers think. So Midrash Tanhuma, our beloved. Okay. Would someone volunteer?
I can read it.
Please.
It's from the Midrash Tanhuma.
Mhm.
Our teachers of blessed memory stated, while Noah was planting the vineyard, Satan appeared before him and asked, "What are you planting?" He answered, "A vineyard." "What is it?" inquired Satan. "Its fruits are sweet, whether moist or dry," he answered. "And from them one produces a wine that causes the heart of man to rejoice, as it is written, and wine doth make glad the heart of man." Satan suggested, "Come, let us be partners in this vineyard." And Noah replied, "Certainly."
Okay, so let's continue with this conversation a little bit further. I'm sure there is a surprise out of the world may be destroyed, but let's keep going. But the Satan is present. So what is this dark? It's a dark, so it's impossible to run away from dualism in most of cultures, including monotheism. What do I mean by dualism? There has to be recognition that the world is also, in addition to its majesty of creation, has a very strong dark force that lives within it. And Satan, there is all kinds of midrashim about what is this Satan means. No, it is not the dark goat-like creature with horns and spear or a fork and so forth. That's not ours. It is that dark adversary place that visits our great men and women. For example, Satan appears to Abraham when he takes his son to Mountain of Moriah. So there is always, Satan appears to Sarah, and he actually the one who scares her, and her heart flies away, or he's the one who actually tells her about Isaac. So he appears in these very, very complicated moments where both faith, emunah, and ethical decision has to be made often. And he's a fun literary agent to move the story along. Everyone with me? You need him. You need him in order to push the narrative. Okay, so let's see what you've heard some of this already. Let's read it one more time in more expansion.
Okay, I'll read.
Please.
What did Satan do? First, he obtained a lamb and slaughtered it beneath the vineyard. Then he took a lion and slaughtered it there. And after that, he obtained a pig and an ape and slaughtered them in the same place. Their blood seeped into the earth, watering the vineyard. He did this to demonstrate to Noah that before drinking wine, man is as innocent as a sheep, like a sheep before her shearers is dumb. But after he drinks a moderate amount of wine, he believes himself to be as strong as a lion, boasting that no one in all the world is his equal. When he drinks more than he should, he behaves like a pig, wallowing about in urine and performing other base acts. After he becomes completely intoxicated, he behaves like an ape, dancing about, laughing hysterically, prattling foolishly, and is completely unaware of what he is doing. All this happened to the righteous Noah. If the righteous Noah, whom the Holy One, blessed be he, praised, could behave in such a fashion, how much more so could any other man?
Okay. So can I see your faces, and then we're going to move to Zohar. What do you think of this? What do you think of this story?
I think it's amazing. It reminds me of Shakespeare's All the World's a Stage and All the Men, you know, the 7 stages. This is the 4 stages of being drunk.
Okay.
And it's actually quite smart, really.
It's very smart. It's tragic, right?
Yeah,
Somebody who is Mickey, please. Yes.
Well, it's problematic in terms of free will. About predicting any of your actions, unless you knew it, you couldn't. There's a component of taking away your free will in terms of action.
The wine does that.
Yes.
Wine, absolutely. Yes, very good. Absolutely.
On the other hand, we finally get a bit of an explanation that basically Noah was a righteous man, and it's wine that caused him to behave badly. So I think this is a little kinder commentary on his behavior.
Okay. So any more? I would want to hear from you. These are wonderful. I'm expanding my consciousness without a glass of wine. But
well, I was going to say that, I mean, so Noah's action in choosing to plant the vineyard is, I thought, very optimistic, despite his exhaustion. It's celebratory. It's an interesting choice from that perspective. And although it says he's not serving God, he succeeds with his vineyard. And we have commentary which say that within a short period of time, it's a success. So you have that, the dark and the light. So that's the light. But because of his behavior, there's a complex analysis, which is, you did say it moves the story along, but it does more than that, because it actually gives the other side of his actions and understanding them.
And the fear, natural fear of what liquor can do to you.
Yeah, and so that need it.
Absolutely. So in the story of Nazir, again, Torah will play this very kind of a tense relationship to the one who will take vow. Remember, Samson is a Nazir. He's not supposed to drink wine, and he's a Nazir from this was men and women, men who could take a vow of not drinking wine and cut his hair, except he is Nazir. This is something you take upon yourself. This is a Nazir this is somebody who he was from birth, which is a whole separate unusual category and not often encountered at all. But what follows in the book of Numbers, the story of these taking the first of all, Rashi comments fascinating thing that right after Nazir says, I'm no longer, he finished his cycle. He's no longer, he's relieved of his vow. He's completed it. He brings a sacrifice, offering of a sacrifice of chata, meaning of sinfulness. So you say to yourself, why would Torah choose him to offer an offering at the temple or the Mishkan that were a one of sin? So Rashi says this brilliantly. He says, when it's all over with, God will ask you, did you take joy in my creation? Did you see the beauty in the world? And did you enjoy the wine of the world? So actually, these severe oaths were never looked positively by the tradition, number one. What follows the relationship of Nazir to wine, of Israelite to wine, is the fact that when the issue with the woman who is accused of adultery. So commentators will say the only reason she could have strayed, sorry ladies, this is, and men, sorry ladies and gentlemen, this is a reality of the text, is that when the woman drinks, she will not have the control over herself, and God knows what can happen to her. So actually what can happen to her is that extramarital complexity, and now she's in front of the priest, and now it gets really ugly. So I'm going to leave it to that. So wine will forever walk this very tight, complicated rope of beauty and enhancement, as well as incredible danger, right? And it has an opportunity to do both. So let's take a look. Next midrash from Zohar, and that will answer something else for us. So let's take a look. You're right on target, so I appreciate it. Yes, number 10. Anyone volunteer to read who hasn't read before? It's nice to hear your voices. It's a pleasure.
I can read.
Okay. Oh, who wants to read?
I don't think you read, so please.
Okay. Come and behold, what is the difference between Moses and other people? When the Holy One, blessed be he, said to Moses, now therefore let me alone, and I will make you a great nation. Moses immediately asked, shall I abandon Israel, forget their punishment, and not ask for mercy for them? The world now shall say that I have killed Israel, and that I did the same as Noah had done before me.
Okay, should I just paraphrase it, right? What's the difference between Moses and other people? It doesn't even say. Noah will be added on. Is the fact that what happens when God is, remember the sin of the golden calf? They're having a party, and a good party. Okay, they're having a real party. So God says, I'm done. I'm going to make great nation out of you to Moses. And Moses says, please don't. No,
So the opposite
of Noah. So not only Noah is not like Abraham, which is a high bar, but the fact that Noah is also does not, you see destruction of the world, and you say that. And there's several midrashim that relates to this, which I introduced to you one earlier. Rabbis are very uncomfortable. If you have a straight pipe to the Holy One, how dare you not to argue? The whole point to have a pipe is to disagree. The whole reason we studied this and study Torah is we can fight back. This is the relationship. Because if I can wrestle with you, I'm in a relationship with you. When I don't care, I don't care. You can destroy the world. What's left? What's left then? My whole point of connection and ability to To have the relationship is because I can repair this world to a degree. Because you know what, Holy One? Even with you, there's a little bit of adjustment that's necessary. Otherwise, why would you bother creation of the human being? What do you need us for? What do you need us for that? If not to be that in that tension with you. Okay, let's take a look at Renata X beautifully raised question, and that is the tension between their Harold Schulweis note. Yes, the tension between and this is a wonderful essay of his, right? And it's, first of all, it's a book I recommend strongly that's called In God's Mirror. Second of all, it is called essay called Philosophy in the Cup. So, which is an excellent essay. So would someone volunteer and read? It's a bit terse, but you can do it. And by the way, we will send you all these, if not already, all these sources for your files. So you can look them over. It took me a long time to compile them. I'm so happy for you to look them over. They're worthwhile. So would someone volunteer and read?
I can do that.
Please. Please.
Note that the blessing over the fruit of the vine is not over grapes. Though the fruit of the vine is of God, the human element requisite for the blessing of consecration is absent. Consecration is in the transaction between nature and humanity. To exclude either is to miss the divine-human partnership celebrated in the covenant. Similarly, the motzi blessing is not recited over the sheaves of the field, but over the bread, which derives from nature, coupled with human labor and intent. We recite the blessing not over the grape presented whole on the vine, but over the wine squeezed and fermented through human agency. And if there is no wine, the kiddush is recited over the challah with the motzi blessing instead of the blessings over the wine. The motzi too is recited not over the sheaves of wheat and barley presented whole, but over the bread grown and kneaded and shaped by human hands, through human and divine cooperation in the givenness of sun, seed, and soil, transformed by the purpose of sustaining the body and rejoicing the soul, sanctification takes place.
Okay, beautifully read and a mouthful. So mouthful meaning there is a lot. So let me just move right after to actual Kiddush. And Harold Schulweis is from California, a brilliant rabbi who has started very much this movement of Havurot, of these groups of learning that became very popular in the 70s and 80s throughout North America. So very creative person, an excellent thinker, beautiful sermon writer. So would someone volunteer and read the Kiddush and the tension we have been describing, why we sanctify and what we're doing? Would someone volunteer?
I can read it.
Thank you. It's not full. I've added it because it was much longer. Yeah.
It seems odd to use wine to sanctify the Shabbat. Wine can intoxicate, confuse the mind. But Kiddush is for lucidity, for twin remembrances of creation and redemption, of nature that begins with God's word, and of history, the exodus from Egypt that combines faith and will. We drink philosophy, a mighty analog. As wine is neutral, ambivalent, ambiguous, as wine is potential, holding in it the capacity to lose awareness, to desecrate, and the talent to consecrate life, so all energies that flow from the Creator Liberator can raise up or pull down, rejoice or depress. Wealth, this power that can support the fallen, can reduce men and women to slaves, build shelters for the homeless, or smart bombs to shatter lives. This wine can rejoice the heart with grand purpose or render us powerless, a seductive escape from responsibility. We raise the wine, recalling the seventh day of creation and the first day of liberation. We raise the wine to remember the potentiality, the possibility in us to consecrate our talents and sanctify our words.
Yeah, I'm gonna want to see your, it's a lot of reading. What they're beautiful and thoughtful words to put together. You will review them afterwards. What is he saying? What is Shuvai saying? What does he contrast, especially at the last Kiddush?
Well, it's the same as what you were talking about before, Tina, which is that it has this potential to open us and give us this welcoming feeling, but that's not the only possibility within us, because we have the potential for that positive and the negative and the warning of what also can happen, but that's within us, you know, to control or to mold.
So here, please, Desiree?
Sorry, I actually got something else from it, which you also said, and that is, why did God create us? And the Kiddush, which demands both the melding of what the land can produce and what nature produces, but also what people produce. And hence you get wine, and hence you get bread versus wheat versus grapes. It actually acknowledges that God wanted us.
Yes, 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 yes. And our job as a human being and a Jew to justify that desire. Is to justify that desire. That is the fulfillment. That's what mitzvot are for, right? This is what we do to be the best possible Jew in the world, and that is to put that to emphasize that. Absolutely. Just a second. Somebody else had the hand that we did not. Amy, just a second, and then Linda. Yes.
Amy,
Oh, sorry. I'm
me?
apologies.
go ahead. Yeah.
Who? Sorry, me?
Amy, yeah,
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry. In the Kiddush in Hebrew, it's not, they don't explicitly mention the word wine, right? It's just
Fruit
because
of the
I
land.
remember when I first moved to Israel that when you buy the grapes that you say, like the grape juice that you say Kiddush over, it's not called yain, it's called tirosh. And because there's like a negative connotation to wine and Kiddush, and because like they want to like avoid the negative connotations that wine has and the sanctification of Shabbat, like that oftentimes like they won't use wine, and so the juice is called tirosh, which is like from the Bible, I believe, and just to like add to like the sanctification of the Kiddush, because there's something in the Kiddush that's not like that they don't want to like degrade it by saying the word wine. And
Interesting. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Who else had with it? Linda and Mickey. Yes.
I think, of course, there is that duality, as we've discussed, of bringing pleasure, but also danger. By sanctifying it, we control it too.
Very good.
We make it part of our ritual. We celebrate the product of humanity and God. But we also have many rituals around drinking in Judaism. And there's permission to drink, and there's control over drinking, which I think is actually extremely smart. So, you know, if you look at cultures where there is that kind of control, things have changed with college culture, but we didn't have a lot of alcoholism in Judaism years ago. Right. And I think a lot of it is credited with the fact that we sanctify wine, that we give children a little drop, just like the Italians give children a little drop. And it becomes not forbidden, so there isn't the rebellion against it, but there's also respect for it. And so we enjoy the little bit of pleasure, but there's limits around it.
Wonderful comment. Wonderful. I will follow up, and there was somebody else who wanted to. Mickey, I think that was you. Please.
Just the issue about that we are in partnership with God for all the brachas we make. So everything that we say a bracha over is a result of a production of something. And in effect, we act godlike in controlling the use to which it's put.
Very
So,
good.
so in effect, we are given the opportunity to be God in terms of how we actually use it for either good or bad, whether it be weapons, whether it be drinking, whether it be providing or denying food.
Right.
I think that's the overall lesson.
But so I just want, so first of all, goes the same thing for social media. Look what it's done for us. It's connected us right over Torah. And it is also can spread horrible things and hatred all over the world within a second push of the button, right? So if you don't have this book, I recommend it very strongly, but it's a heavy read and it's called Drunk. What books did Rabbi recommend tonight? The book named Drunk. And it is by philosopher Edward Slingerland. And the subtitle is How We Sipped, Danced, and Stumble Our Way to Civilization. Okay, now he brings something fascinating. And by the way, I've already apologized that this is not to promote any more liquor intake. I mean, I'm somebody who grew up in the Soviet Kiev. You could find drunk people on the streets in a horrible condition trying to escape their Soviet reality. The worst thing someone could say about you was that you would drink alone. That is a whole other terrible accusation. There would be two semi-inebriated men standing on a street corner and they would go like this or this, which means they were looking for the third one. So they would go, we've got two, there would be two of them, we're looking for three. And then another one also ready to have a little bit more he just got paid. And his wife is waiting for his to come home, and he would not be there for a while, and hopefully he will return back with something in his pocket. And my father was, a blessed memory, was a volunteer, kind of a guard in a neighborhood. They would come in a horrible weather. These men would walk around and would pick up these poor guys who would be in a terrible condition, could have been frozen to death, and take them to the place where they would sober them up under the shower. And everyone did have an address to take them to. Interesting comment that since the fall of the Soviet Union, the intake of liquor actually went up. The regulations were no longer restricted. And with that, your actual life expectancy went down. So it is a very interesting relationship. So I'm going to pause on this. What I want to say is he brings a lot of sources and he repeats some things over again. But what's fascinating is his comment is that even flies like to get drunk. So what does that mean? They love sugar, right? So we now a little bit away from the Torah. Torah is trying to govern this, right? But the fact is there is not one culture that doesn't have some mind or a mood altering states. We are like ready for it in some way. And so what happens is you see that you think, well, Noah planted the vineyard because he became a man of agriculture. Well, guess what? We made vineyards before we begin to settle the lands. 10,000 years, the wine comes into play and the liquor and the beer, several thousand years before we actually settle lands. It was that important to us. We would be foragers, except we would stop to make more booze. So, sorry. So if you were part of the culture that did not have liquor, you had other things that you would be, there were kava and other in South American cultures of way of accessing your other state. And very often these states would open you up to other forms of creativity. However, of course, if you govern it, it also serves, you think, what else is so important? When you have a group of young men going out and all of a sudden they seem to be very connected to one another. They will also tell you, oh, this is my buddy. We went to do what? We went drinking together. So either it's sports, which you're out there fighting for something on the same team, or you have this bonding experience for better or for worse. But in other words, what it does is it creates a certain communal bonds that do not seem to come into play in the same way and without bonding of liquor. And the same way also warring tribes would have these rituals of to bond before they would go into the battle, and sometimes very inebriated, especially in Vikings. You read were very much fond of intoxication as well, and they would fight. But that would be also very much of a strong of a bonding ritual in the society. So if I would say that this is very worthwhile, if you like anthropology, thick read, but worth it. So I want to share with you a couple of things. One is I have been keeping you very carefully apart from the sordid story of why is the crime and the curse of Canaan or Ham, the punishment does not seem to fit the crime. So Sanhedrin gives us a little bit of a flavor to that. Is the Torah, that's Talmud, Babylonian Talmud in this case, and it puts a couple of lines in, and they're painful to read. So I want to make sure you are well prepared of what I'm about to say. Is that what occurred between father and son was a lot worse than seeing father's nakedness. But actually either Noah was castrated or sodomized. So now not a good thing to end the class with. So I won't let you go. And I know some of you will close your eyes and you would, so I can't believe, Rabbi, where did you get that? I did not make this up. But what's interesting is that this is a part of other sacred myth of other cultures, including Greek culture, where the creator of the world, Uranus, I think the name, am I correct? This Uranus, I think the name, and I think Cronus is his son, does exactly that. In the nature, a lion will eat its cubs, right? In some ancient myth, inheriting the throne, the very first contestant to the throne will be your male hair. So on one hand, you want it, on another hand, it can also cause tremendous revolution. I mean, we know that. And so there is a tense relationship between father and son. So when Noah wakes up and curses, we don't have it in the Torah, this is a commentary. But there is, why do they build this case? Is because he is undressed. He went drinking, being dressed. But what is also interesting is that where you find him, he wasn't in the street. He was not out in public. He was in a tent. And the suggestion is that the hints that the tent has a strange spelling, that it is hints at her tent, that he actually went to see his wife. And it would have been normal, he would have gotten undressed. What his grandson is doing in his tent with his wife is not all clear. Text is ambiguous. It leaves you uncomfortable. And yet Freud had a heyday with that. He would have a heyday, and did, because it complicates family relations. You will say from now on, I will never read Torah. I can't believe it. It could even suggest that. But the fact that Leviticus 19 spent so much time on proper relationship, who you can lie with and who you should not lie with. Right? When do you read this? On the holiest day of the year, you're supposed to atone for your sins. On the middle afternoon, as you are exhausted, you're reading about what's appropriate. We often don't read it. We skip it because they're hard things to read. But the fact is, the boundaries within the family is extremely important. Who to love and who not to love. I'm bringing this, why am I not sparing you those details? For the reason is that there is nothing for our rabbis that did not deserve exploration and trying to understand. And they were readers of the text with the same set of eyes going, what happened between the two? In terms of putting the cloth and walking back as a sign of the respect, it's a part of also of a commandment that you should not see your parents in their, in the state and of course, none of it holds when you taken care of an elderly parent and need to look after them, or someone you love who is sick. Judaism, but as I said, we're not shy. So let's very quickly, before I'll show you art and make you, to ask you to fall in love with Torah all over again, because it deserves so, I think we do need a reading. So the reading from the experts called Drunk. So can we just have somebody right there, this is also the context in which. Would someone volunteer?
Okay, I'll read it. This is also the context in which to understand Ralph Waldo Emerson's comment on the role of the humble apple in early American society. Man would be more solitary, less friended, less supported if the land yielded only the useful maize and potato and withheld this ornamental and social fruit. Apple blossoms provided beauty and the fruit cider and applejack. Beyond the obvious usefulness of stayed maize and potatoes, then, Emerson discerned a more subtle function for beauty and intoxication, equally important as bread and potatoes for us social apes. Should I go on, or is that it?
Yes, yes, we're going to stop for just a moment. And just to comment that, that I think you can make intoxication from potatoes as well. Am I correct? Right? So I'm not sure why that got, why that got, when you're very desperate, exempt. But, right.
Also, it overlooks the fact that there are vitamins in fruit. We need fruit.
Okay. So I want to show you some art, and my concern is that the art will not end up with I would suggest two things. First of all, I will suggest one film, but the sound is lousy because it was made in 2012, and it was it's called Wintner, if you haven't seen it, Wintner's Luck or Heavenly Wine. And it was made by director Nikki Caro. It is an interesting creative film. She's a New Zealand director. And the story, so the co-screenwriter, last name of the woman, Shekel. So I immediately got a sense who is making, why the movie related to me so well when I was watching. If you look, it was premiered in 2012 at at the International Film Festival, and Nika Caro began to explore her. She's also director of the film, The Zookeeper's Wife. She's a very talented woman, and then I wanted to know her background, and then I learned that in Auckland she went to school named Kadima, and then it all became very clear as well. So what's in the movie is a young man, a farmer, who is, has this inspiration. He's going to make great wine. It's about early 19th century. He has a wife he loves very much. She's also a peasant, and he meets this angel. And this is for the first time in the movie where Angel is actually dressed with wings. And they picked the most gorgeous actor who also come from Sephardic background. And his name is Gaspard Uliel. And he plays this angel. And it is the angel who says to Sobran, this is the farmer. He says he brings him the vine to plant the vineyard, and it's a relationship. He visits him once a year, and it's a relationship between him and this angel. And there is a fascinating scene of them wrestling, and you will get the sense of where we. Where the script takes its as well as deep connection and love. So Henny, we see your camera moving, sweetheart. So it's helpful if you're stable, my dear. Right? Thank you. So so let's take a look at art, and then I'm going to finish with the quote. So what I want to say. Text is hard. Let's take a look. Drunkenness of Noah by Michelangelo, 1509. This is Sistine Chapel, okay? You have in the back Noah's wife. She obviously, it looks like Michelangelo read Midrash because it is Noah's wife who Midrash tells us cleansed the first garden, which is very beautiful. And here's Noah covered with his sons. That's not very clear. For Michelangelo, women look like men. And of course, painting of the body and so forth, very, very important. And, Sistine Chapel, where it is placed. So this is something, just again, you will have it in your handout. Let's go next. The next is Noah's sacrifice first of all, this is the offering. This is the blessing. You see the rainbow and you see, look at their gorgeous outfits. James Tissot was French, but lived in England. Devout Catholic. His mother was very religious. He has a number of paintings and plates on the Hebrew Bible, and it is beautiful. I mean, look at Noah, look at these lovely women with their turbans, and it's very Orientalism. Then it was very, very important, and so forth. So it is ark. There's a fairly modest shape ark. It's small, but the altar is big. Stones. I love that. They're in the perfect symmetry, quite beautiful. And what I like about it is that Noah on one side, his wife on another. Look at that, like a priestess. She's actually standing, right? Women, men, very lovely. Okay, let's take a look. The next one. And that is, again, James Tissot. And I love the way they are. He probably saw Hasidic dancing. Look at these guys. They look like they're about to break into dance. And the one who is most uncombed and most unkept is the one. The matter of fact, in Hebrew, it is the text hints what is the crime of Ham and his son Kenan, that they laughed at their father. Not only did he told the brothers, but he actually told on the streets, because the Hebrew is different. He didn't show them there, but Hagid, he spoke about. I don't know what streets they were talking about, but there were no, but that Rabbi see that he was making fun. Okay, so let's see the next. This is hard to see, Bernardo Cavallino. This would be very much fitted to the midrash of what happens to the human being when it cannot possibly control its urges. And you see Nepalese man drunk totally, and he paints, and red is used, and the man is without control, and his red face. And of course, artists love to paint and want to paint human body. It's the most interesting thing to them. And you see this terrible state he's in of disaster of wine, disaster. And you see the tragedy of what happens when you lose control. Let's see what's next for us. And that is that movie for you. So film Noah, how many of you have seen it? Did you see film Noah directed by Darren Aronofsky? Nice Jewish boy, recommend very strongly. A lot of special effects. Why? It's 2014. He is huge environmentalist. So the Noah story is told also of how important it is to look after our earth. He did not use animals to force them to photograph gorgeous footage on animals, but he didn't have to do anything to them. Very, very careful. And he takes on the cast is unbelievable. It is my favorite, Anthony Hopkins and Russell Crowe, nothing less than very serious cast to take on the film of a biblical Noah. And it's hard. It also shows you what happens when you are obsessed with your faith. And what happens to you when the family falls apart, and what happens when you lose your friends, and who are you, and the loneliness with which you approach your drink when the world you did not fight for is destroyed. So let's take a look at the segment from the movie. Are you okay with that? We're all right. I will not send you sleeping, being very tense. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at the so this is the scene from the movie. It's 3 minutes. Stay with me, please, and then I'll close it. Okay. I hope you will talk to me afterwards. Send you up with a scene like this. Okay, here's the good news. To say, by the way, those of you whose camera I didn't have faces to see, Judy, David, Carla, I just want to say I miss your faces, but it's lovely you're part of us. So is it a worse film to see? The answer is yes. The acting is excellent, and it goes, and the story of Noah is told, I think is told very well. I kept the fragment for the last, because once you bring visual in and such acting, it would have painted all of your sensibility of what Noah is like. So I tried to be very careful. The end of the film, and maybe I'll save it for next 2 weeks from now, I think we're right, the 6th we are, right, or the week from now. I will show you, because it ties that little pouch that he throws to the right, to the ground and so forth. So the scenery is gorgeous. They build an ark somewhere in New Jersey. The scene is from Iceland, and very, very, now someone speaking to Kathy from Brenda, I believe is there something I need to read? It's too much, I can't.
No, it's something you'll enjoy reading when you have a moment.
Okay.
Just a very warm thank you from a
okay, thank you. So let me just say, I have one paragraph and I'm going to read it for you. There's other one that from Elie Wiesel. Elie Wiesel will take the destruction of the world very, very seriously, because obviously the world he comes from was destroyed, and he emphasizes the reality of what you saw. Noah drinks alone. I mean, you see that, right? This is Noah L'chaim. He's trying to absolutely escape his loneliness, and they've done a beautiful job to show you this vastness, its beauty, and the animals are in pairs, right? We're not talking about necessarily, when I say love, loss and redemption, we need to be paired up with a friend, with the lover, with the brother or a sister, a neighbor, but that sense of that he is all on his own. So let me just say on a positive note is that there are things in life that brings you an absolute extraordinary fulfillment. And I would like to read it, a poem by Charles Baudelaire. And the next week we will not spend on Noah, but this is what intoxicates me. Let me put it this way. You must always be drunk. Everything depends upon getting drunk in all that, and it is all that matters. In order to not feel, Kathy, can we put this up? It's actually on, in order not to feel the horrible burden of time. This is before that, dear. It's before. This is still when the text is. Anyway, if not, you'll read it on your own. It's okay, right? I just thought it will be easier for you to follow. You must always be drunk. Everything depends upon getting drunk. It is all that matters. In order to not to feel the horrible burden of time that breaks your back and pushes you to the ground, you must be drunk, perpetually drunk. Drunk on what? On wine, on poetry, or virtue, whatever your taste, but get drunk. And if sometimes on the steps of a palace, the green grass of a ditch, or in the dreary solitude of your room, you find yourself sobering up, your drunkenness diminished or entirely gone, and you ask of the wind, of the wave, of the star, of the bird, or the clock, of everything that exists, everything that mourns, everything that rolls, everything that sings, everything that speaks. What time is it? The wind, the wave, the star, the bird, the clock will all answer you. It is time to get drunk, so as to no longer be the martyred slave of time. Get drunk, be constantly drunk on wine, on poetry, or on virtue, whatever your taste. So I want to see your beautiful faces back before we say goodbye. I want you to be intoxicated by what's beautiful, that moves you, that you find, that gives you expansion of consciousness, opportunity, never drink alone, and find a minion, your people around the table. And as difficult as Torah text might be, it is also an opportunity for a deep, soulful conversation. And I thank you for making this night of such event. And you could have been anywhere, you chose to be with each other. So I have more stuff for you, but that's for next, when we meet again. So, and we continue with the family.